in this video, what does it mean to be authentic? Also, 2 tangible techniques to make you more authentic. Being authentic is especially important for influencers, thought leaders, content creators, even freelancers, and also actually even, I believe, in your personal and romantic relationships. But what does it actually mean to be authentic? Well, a very short and nice formulation that I like is that it means to act in accordance with your values. Or in other words, not pretending that you agree with something that you disagree with, and not pretending to believe something that you actually don't believe in. Or even daring to hold opinions that go against the norms. And that can be really tricky, and here's why. In the distant past, people who were antisocial ended up being alone. And surviving alone in the ancient world was very hard. So we can actually boil it down to this equation: fitting into the group equals status equals increased survival odds. We all seek status on some level. I was astonished when I read a book by an author called Will Storr, The Status Game, to really see how absolutely comprehensive this effect is. I'm throwing a link for that book in the below if you're interested in that, but it is absolutely deeply ingrained in us. And the people with really antisocial personalities didn't pass on their genes to as many people, and that also means that the more pro-social member of our species had more offspring, and we are on some level their descendants today. So the reason it's hard to be authentic is that in some sense it pits us against our own group. So how do you become more authentic? Well, here's a technique, and I want to just say I was inspired by the book The First Rule of Mastery by Michael Gervais. Again, link to that below. Now imagine that you carry with you everywhere you go a screen. This screen is special in that it filters information and only allows information to come through it that is either helpful to you or can help you improve in some way. It filters out all information that contains contempt or personal attacks. Now, when someone expresses an opinion to you, you take a good deep breath and you put the screen in place between you and the person. The screen allows anything that's helpful to you to come through and anything that's not to be blocked. Okay, I know this screen metaphor seems a little ethereal, but just bear with me here. Now, according to Michael Gervais, there are 3 types of screens. The first one is your purpose, which means being true to your values and inspiring others to do the same. When you're on a mission to live with purpose, you will automatically care less about other people's approval. Now, the purpose screen will allow anything to pass through it that helps you living in accordance with your quote-unquote purpose. Nothing else makes it through the screen. The second screen is called your roundtable. Now, at the end of the day, only a few people's opinions about you really matter. A random stranger, a jerk in traffic, they're not part of your roundtable. Your roundtable are the people who wish you the best, who you respect, and who will tell you the truth. So how does the roundtable screen work? Well, it filters out any comments that aren't made by members from your roundtable. Just imagine you hear some comment or an opinion, ask yourself, what would my roundtable think? The third screen is your death. It's getting a little dark here, I realize that. This screen filters comments that matter in the grand scheme of things and those that don't. Your partner or your parent or your child tells you something that's important to them. That could matter on your deathbed. But power-hungry Linda from The Office, not so much. So now you probably also see that you don't always have to speak up. That is not necessarily what being authentic is all about. Even the ancient Stoic Seneca wrote about that. Apparently he had this business partner that couldn't take any criticism and that needed constant flattery. And at some point it dawns on Seneca that this person just needs flattery to function. And since flattering him didn't go against Seneca's purpose, and since he wasn't part of his round table, and since it wouldn't be a worry of him what he thought of him when Seneca was lying on his deathbed, he could just play this little game with him at no real cost to Seneca. that wouldn't cause him to compromise his values and therefore also his authenticity. And ironically, the anecdote also shows that this person, the business partner, was much more concerned with what others thought of him than he was what he was thinking about others. You see the point here? People aren't worried about you or the impression you leave. They're worried about themselves, about the impression they leave on you. Understanding this is the ultimate hack to just stop worrying and start living according to your values, which is almost the very definition of being authentic. So to sum up, live with purpose, listen to your roundtable, and acknowledge your eventual death. So this is the first technique to improve your authenticity. Now, sometimes you will find yourself surrounded by people with whom you disagree, but that may be candidates for your roundtable. I'm essentially talking about you're meeting someone and you're thinking, maybe this could become a new friend. Now, what do you do in a case like that? Well, that is where the second tool in this toolbox comes in handy. So here's the second technique. It essentially details how you can disagree with someone without compromising your own values and thus becoming inauthentic, but also without triggering a negative reaction in them. Okay, here we go. Essentially, I suggest that you start rehearsing this with a friend or a family member, someone you really trust. So the first order of business is identify the claim. You can either ask them to tell you something that they strongly believe in, or you can just wait around for them to say something that you disagree with. Now ask them to clarify. Once they've clarified and identified the claim, you're going to repeat it back and you are going to try to steel man it. That is, you're going to try to see it from their perspective and essentially explain to them what they just explained to you. And once they say the magic words, that's right. That's when you move on to the next step, which is to gently challenge their belief. Now, one way of doing this could be something like not saying that, oh, I think that's wrong, I believe that. Well, you can do that, but I would suggest that you instead say something along the lines of, okay, now that I understand where you're coming from, I can't help thinking some people might think this and that. Here you'd insert the opposite of their claim. What do you think of that? Now it's important that you let them answer and let their answer hang, even if it's followed by silence. Once you've given them plenty of room to think and answer, then you can go on to explain how you see the issue and where you're coming from. That's essentially the technique, and it is, of course, as some of you will probably have figured out, Socratic method or Socratic dialogue. It's not about getting mad, taking a stand, or defending your view. That type of interaction almost never works. Now, it may work in so far that it keeps you being authentic, but it often triggers a backlash, and we want to try and avoid that, especially if we're talking to someone who may be a candidate to join our roundtable. You won't always get through with your point, but it is a good way to keep a debate civil. And it's not easy. I still get carried away, and I've practiced this method for years now. But at the end of the day, if you take up a certain point of discussion and you try to facilitate a civil debate, and the person you're talking to still doesn't respond positively to any of this, that individual simply doesn't belong at your roundtable, and the whole thing didn't matter in the first place. And by that I mean it did not compromise your authenticity. Was this helpful? I hope you got a better understanding of the root causes of why it's so damn hard to be authentic, but I also just hope you found some inspiration on how you can become more authentic. And if I missed something crucial here, please let me know. If you're interested in the psychology of content creation, please subscribe. Otherwise, have a fabulous life. Hang on, did I mention I created a full course that teaches you how to monetize your social media presence, that essentially teaches you how to build a personal brand, your core product, and how to sell it with video content? If this sounds exciting to you, click the link below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.